You're ready. You're ready. All right, I will call this meeting of the Waushara County Planning and Zoning Committee to order. This meeting will be conducted in the same manner as the application served by the Board of Adjustment. Please remember to keep your comments brief, no more than 5 minutes, and relative to the matter at hand. Anyone other than the applicant or their representative wishing to speak at this hearing must have registered. Anyone who has not should do so immediately and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator to my right. The committee has looked at all the properties and the record will reflect these observations. Following the public hearing, the committee will conduct their monthly business meeting, which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the public hearing. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to file an appeal. Such appeals are heard by the Waushara County Board of Adjustment. Information and applications are available from the zoning office. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 10-day period. I will now introduce the committee. To my left, Mike Cap. Down on the end, Carl Grissayer. In the back, Jerry Lauer, Pat King. Amy's doing the recording, and Todd Waller, our zoning administrator, to my right. Okay, the first item that we will discuss was tabled from the July 16th public hearing. Roses Enchanted Forest Campground, LLC, Wild Rose, Wisconsin, has made an application for zone change in accordance with sections 58-131 through 138, 58-451, and 58-361 of the Waushara County Zoning Code from AG General Ag to OP Parks and Recreation to expand an existing 31-acre campground by 42.29 acres for an additional 100 new campsites with full hookup to septic, well, and electric. Also including an 80-foot strip of land for access on the south end of the existing campground within the shoreline area. Location: an approximate 40-acre parcel of land known as part of Government Lot 2 and an 80-foot strip of land at the north end of an approximate 34 acres of land known as part of Government Lot 1, Section 26, Town 20 North, Range 11 East, Coosa Lake, Town of Springwater, Archer Avenue. Todd has some comments at this time.
If I could, I would just like to give a brief synopsis in terms of what happened before the Roses are asked to come up and speak. As you're aware, this item was tabled at the last meeting, and it was due to concerns raised by several of the residents, as well as a request on behalf of Town of Springwater, in which they wanted to review this at one of their town meetings, wanted to meet with the Roses, and have a chance to kind of digest exactly what it is that the Roses were requesting. Town of Springwater recently reviewed this request at their August meeting, and after hearing concerns from a few residents in attendance, discussion amongst the board and myself, the board was in general agreement to move this item forward onto the county. While there was no formal recommendation made that evening, the town board was in general agreement with the proposed zone change, subject to the project being phased over a multi-year period with a total cap of 100 sites. They also wanted assurances that there would be limited access into the campground, restricting access off of Archer, and that the plans for septic, electric, and shelters would be approved by the town in addition to the county. Since their original submittals, the applicants have revised their overall site plan. I trust you got a copy of that. It was this greenish plan should have been incorporated into your drawings. And since they revised their plans, they're more clearly and definitively depicting campsite paths, street layouts, and amenities. The applicants now depict future campsite paths laid out in east-west orientation, along with a future pavilion and splash pond. It appears that the development will occur in 3 phases, with approximately 50 sites highlighted in yellow, closest to the existing campground, being developed first, along with the community pavilion and splash pond. With that, I guess.
Okay, the Janet Forest Campground representatives, please step forward and state any information you wish to speak at this time, to present at this time.
I'm gonna run down the same list, and Kim Rose on this, I'm with Richard Gary, who works at the campground. I'm just gonna run down the same list we presented to the town. We are the smallest.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We are the smallest campground in the area, currently having 71 sites. In putting in plans for this expansion, we are putting a minimum of 50-foot buffer around all sides of the 40-acre property, so that we're trying to be good neighbors. Again, to what Todd said, we are doing this over time as money and time and demand allows, and it will be done in stages. Our business plan stays the same. We are currently an all-seasonal campground. We don't plan to do anything different than that. We are a good neighbor in the area. We allow a lot of locals to come in and walk on the property, walk their dogs on the property. Some of the kids from the lake come over and play in our playground. And we do that because it keeps them off county. We are planning to build a swim pond on the property, and in hopes that will take some of that burden off of Wilson Lake and give them someplace to get back to. Our campers typically stay on the grounds now at only 32 acres. So at 75 acres, I can imagine there are trails and things. There'll be no reason for them to be around 28 or Archer. We control our lake frontage and the usage there, by how we have our swim area put up and how we have boat slips there. So we're pretty much maxed out with no more going to that lake. Archer Lane has a gate on it right now, that the only fire lane on the 40 acres that went all the way up to Archer Lane has a locked gate. The intention is for that to stay locked. The local fire department's been told to keep getting that. The expansion, we feel will bring additional business to local businesses, the restaurants, the gas stations, the grocery stores, these kinds of things. We're trying to build this campground to a sustainable business, so that at some point, maybe two of us can retire and only work the campground. The plan is to build something for our children in the future. And I guess the point I keep making every time is I'm not evergreen. I don't tend to be evergreen. There's one plan to look like evergreen. Jim Button has his business plan, mine is different.
Any questions from the board? If not, take a seat. Any correspondence?
Yes, as you're aware that last meeting I read several letters into the record. Since the original public hearing, we received one additional. I'd like to just read that into the record. It is dated August 5th, 2020. It's email that was sent to Cindy Rettler. It says, "Hello Cynthia, my name is Karen Davis, and I own a home on the west side of Crusoe Lake. I was made aware last weekend of a request to rezone some land in the town of Springwater to allow 100 new campsites to be added. The purpose of this email is to express my extreme disapproval of this potential rezoning. I have a number of concerns if this rezoning is allowed. The added amount of vehicle and boat traffic that will certainly take place. My sister, co-owner of the home, is legally blind and has already come very close to getting hit by vehicles going much faster than the posted speed limit of 25 miles per hour as she crossed the road to get to the lake. We have had one dog hit by a car and another dog hit and killed. We place temporary signs when we come up in an attempt to get traffic to slow down, but it fails for the most part. We walk, jog Archer Lane, and with it being so narrow with a number of curves, my husband and I have nearly been hit a number of times. I can only imagine what will happen with the addition to another 100 campsites. I understand the main entrance will be on Highway 8, but there will still be a number of campers that will be driving by our home when trying to find the entrance. The boat traffic on Crusoe and Wilson Lakes will be a disaster waiting to happen once the no wait is lifted. The lakes are too small to support the amount of boat traffic as it is, and I'm certain more campers will be launching their boats on one or both lakes. Many people launching at Evergreen and the county park don't adhere to the no wait times, driving the wrong direction, constantly park their pontoon boats on the sandbar, which hinders boats pulling skiers and tubers. The jet skiers are constantly jumping boat wakes just behind skiers and tubers and cutting in front of speedboats. My neighbor actually blew up his engine when a jet skier cut right in front of him, and he pulled back so hard on the throttle that he inadvertently put the boat in reverse. What will happen to home or property values, excuse me, with the added campgrounds? With the additional campsites, I'm certain that crime will also increase along with disrespect to properties. We already have people driving off the road causing damage to our land. I'm paying very high taxes to live in a serene and peaceful setting, and each year things continue to get busier and noisier. We just don't need the added frustration and stress. That's the reason we spend our summers here, to get away from the stress in the big city. If the rezoning is allowed, then what next? Patcher's Campground has already been sold and appears to be expanding. That will also bring traffic onto Archer Lane. Adding the Enchanted Forest campground will only open the doors to even more campsites in an already overcrowded situation. These are my major concerns, but I have a number of smaller ones as well. I also want to express my disappointment that I wasn't made aware of this in a letter of some type. It makes a person feel like someone is trying to backdoor many of the homeowners on both lakes. I implore you and the town supervisors, Ed Hernandez and Paul Zimmer, to deny this rezone request. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Karen Davis.
That's
it.
A person's wishing to speak for or against?
I have two people registered to speak in opposition and or registered. First is Denise Hudlin. Oh, I apologize. Sorry. Registered in opposition but wishes not to speak is Rhonda Bartels. And I do have Gary Bartels and I'm wishing to speak for informational.
Really,
Take your mask off if you like.
name is Gary Boyce. I just found out about this a couple days ago. And some of the neighbors come over with very much concern about this additional 100 campground that's coming into our area. These people are here seasonally, so they're not here at this time. If it's that important, it shouldn't be. I understand that. I had to be individually there, so I should stop by and see exactly what's going on. I don't know if, I understand they're never wanting to increase the campground, make an investment. They already purchased 40 acres, I believe. Very substantial investment. I don't know if they consider the owners of property owners around Great Lake, the effect it's going to have on us. Being on this lake, you have to understand this on that 81 acre lake, relatively shallow. There's already so much boat traffic on it. There's constantly jet skis, pontoon boats. I go by the campground almost on a daily basis. The boats are already stacked in front of your place. I don't know where you're going to house anymore these boats because they got so many people out there already. And another additional 100 lots. You're going to bring in more boat traffic, more jet skis. You see, there's supposed to be footage that's supposed to be complied as far as this is from the shoreline. Jet skis won't comply to that. I'm not saying it's all turkey, but it's not. Pontoon boats, they won't comply to it. No way, they won't comply to that. There's so much boat traffic on it right now. It's rather weedy lake. On the end of the weekend, you look out on the lake, it looks like snowbanks of weeds. There's so much transportation that's torn up. The activity that's on this lake over there. Like I said, it's 81 acre lake. We've only been there a couple years now. But you see the increase, you can identify the boats, right, can't go in there from what house they're from. This is carrying. So I oppose the zoning, I'm nothing against them, it's just, I don't think they looked at the lake and the harm, negative effect it's going to have on the lake, and also on the property value of the property owners that are on that lake at this time. So like I said, I'm in opposition of it. I prefer to say the zoning is not over. Thank you.
You. That it for- Okay, the roses have a wall.
We have put a great deal of thought in regards to the impact on the community itself. And that's one of the reasons we're looking at making the buffer around the campground, so it's having a little impact on our neighbors as possible. We've been a very good neighbor these 7 years that we've been there. As far as boat traffic and such, we do understand the boat traffic. Jet skis, I think we had one jet ski that comes from our property, and it's very minimal. We do have a few pontoon boats there, yes, but they're very respectful of our neighbors, to the best of my knowledge. I haven't heard anything negative in regards to any kind of approaching or working with the people around. One of the reasons we're putting in the swimming pond is to take some of the traffic or to take some of the impact away from. We have a beautiful swimming area. We've done a lot of work as far as maintaining cleaning it. And yes, we do get a lot of the weeds, and I do a lot of raking on our shoreline, basically on a daily basis, from like Thursday through Sunday. But in all practicality, we're not going to adversely affect the area. In fact, to be honest with you, a lot of people didn't even know Rose and Janet Forest Campground was there until we did the zone request. We're all seasonal campgrounds. The people here are very respectful of the area.
They treat it like it's their own. I truly have campers that have been there 30 years. They treat this like their cabin. It's a cabin they can afford. As far as any additional boat traffic on that lake, I'm removing the beach launch, so they won't be beach launching from our campground anymore. I'm wiping that out, so it's still there for kiddos. What we have for slips is what we have for slips. There won't be more. There will not be any. If there's additional, they can take that boat and go to Wilson, they can go to Coosa, they can go to Long, or any of the other places in the area. And if a lake is busy, as a boater, I don't think you want to put your boat in that situation. You're going to look at the launch and go, yeah,
And if you would have a problem, would you address it?
absolutely.
If some of the neighbors came and said, we know that boat or person came from the camp, would you
Absolutely.
deal with those campers?
Absolutely.
We have it
Okay.
Yep. As much as I've also had to deal with some of the people on the lake with jet skis, like he's saying, the jet ski traffic on Wilson Lake right now is ridiculous. And we had a couple of our little kiddos, grandsons of one of our campers that were out on kayaks in the jet ski park, right between them. So I'm making it a point to be on my lake shore little walk with cell phone video in hand.
We do have a swimming buoy out there. We had a swimming buoy out there showing the swimming area. We have a raft out there. And we've had really boats from within 20 feet at full weight. You know, they're on a plane, and they're within 20 feet of the swimming buoy, which is illegal. But in the same respect, you know, it is a small lake. We have to be respectful of our neighbors, vice and both sides.
You could, I'm not, I have no idea if they do it, but there is a boat patrol, but I don't know if that's funded by the Lake Association to the county, but I know Sheriff Zilke has a couple of deputies that do patrol lakes. And maybe that people will be good as gold, maybe if they know once in a while he would be there, you can talk to him, I don't know what the procedure is, but.
We have talked to a few other landowners on this, they're very that same concerns we have. And we did some checking on their pretty much just to get the numbers off the craft. Get the numbers off the craft, and
We made a substantial investment about 4 years ago. We buying two 60-some-foot docks that are opposing house, so they have platforms on the end. And we did that for the sheer fact of trying to keep our little ones safe. Because you're going to get that, we're going to get one. And they're all mine. All of them.
You sure?
Pretty sure. I treat them like they are.
Anything else you'd like to add or comment on?
No, we're just trying to do what we can to grow the business and be the best neighbor we can be. Sensitive to not only the land, but the property owners around us. People will tell you I'm a tree hugger, so we're going to leave a buffer. We're going to try to do as much green space as possible. We're putting the hiking trails on the property. As far as anything on the Archer, it's not going to happen. My people don't go to Archer. We come out to Archer with them, emergency exit. campground the size we're proposing, I feel it's a necessity to have that dual entrance for the fire trucks.
Thank you.
One real quick thing I mean, as far as the impact on Archer, minimal any, to be honest with you. You know, I do understand the speed limit on Archer is 25, and there's a lot of people locals as well as people not local who do not adhere to it. But our impact on Archer is not even being noticed, to be honest with you. Our total goal in this whole venture is that nobody knows we're there. Because to be honest with you, before we went for this rezoning, nobody knew we were there. And we want to maintain it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item we will consider is a,
Do you mind if I?
oh, I'm sorry.
No, I have just a few things.
Okay. Thought you were done.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to point out to everybody, you know, the county and the town have worked very closely with regard to this, request. As I stated at the meeting, in the town of Springwater, you know, Waushara County right now maintains a very stagnant, if not depressed economy. You know, one thing that we highly encourage is the advancement of businesses, expansion of businesses. It adds to our tax base. The last thing that we want to do is increase the taxes that our residents right now are absorbing. One thing we also looked at is the fact that the development, I think, is very sensitive to the neighborhood. It's actually 40 acres, a 40-acre tract of land removed from the water. So it's actually not even fronting on the water, nor should it have any impact in terms of, you know, development and impact on it. There's no doubt there will probably be an increase in traffic. These are public lakes. They are owned by the peoples of the state. The other thing too is we looked at the density. The density is actually quite low when you look at campsites, and we just look at, you know, comparatively, we're looking at a total of 171 total units, whereas a campsite that's not too far away has almost tripled that. Staff believes that with assurances regarding access and campgrounds and restrictions or limitations on phasing and build out, the expansion of the Roses and Enchanted Forest Campground could prove to be a welcome neighbor in addition to the area. I had originally floated staff report to the town, Evan Eckstein, Ed Hernandez, and Paul Zimmer. I've shown them the conditions we have incorporated, and if I could, I'd just like to point out item number 2, item number 11, 12, and 13 are those items that were specifically brought up by the town of Springwater. They had no other comment with regard to our staff report. As indicated, I know that the committee will be making a formal recommendation on this later in the evening, but staff is recommending approval of the zone change request from AG General Agriculture to OP Parks and Recreation, to expand an existing 31-acre campground by 42.29 acres for an additional 100 new campsites with full hookup, well and sewer and septic, including the 80-foot strip of land just to the south of the existing campground, subject to the conditions listed.
Any other comments from the committee?
Yes, I have a couple comments in regards to some of the problems we have. I'm on a lake that is having the same kind of problems we do. Our lake management district people took it in hand to make sure that regulations are followed. And there's a couple of us that, excuse me, there are several of us on the lake who take this very seriously. When we see something that's going awry, we nip it in the bud immediately. We confront the boaters, and we are to the team. We hold it to the property owners, and they know that. So my suggestion would be for you people to go to your lake management district and follow up with them and tell them what is going on. And also the other thing is, which was alluded to, You can call the sheriff's department. Don't be afraid to do that, because they will come out. And I know this for a fact. So my suggestion would be very highly, get your lake management district people together, you have a meeting, go over this, and set the bylaws and the laws of the lake so that everybody knows and understands what's happening. Because it just takes once that there's going to be a fatality. And I just don't want to see that happen. So I would suggest very highly going to the lake management district for all concerns.
Anyone else have any comments, questions? All right, we'll move on to the next one. Conditional use, Jacqueline Simonis, West Dallas, Wisconsin, has made an application for conditional use in accordance with sections 58-236, paragraph 17, and 58-454, paragraph 27 of the Waushara County zoning code to store a 2019 Pioneer 28-foot travel trailer in an general ag zone. Location: an approximate 36.83 acre parcel of land known as the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter, section 2, town 19 north, range 9 east, town of Deerfield, County O. Is the applicant here? Is that good? Okay. Would you like to tell us?
Yes, sir. Her son is here.
Okay. Would you like to tell us what you're up to out there?
What do we do out there?
Would you mind just giving a summary and just in terms of what it is that you're seeking tonight?
Yes, yeah. You want to know the reason why we want to keep the trailer up there?
Yes.
Yes, I wanted to keep the trailer up there because we always wanted a place to stay. That parcel and area of land that my mother owns right now has been in the family for almost 33 years. We've been going up there almost every weekend as kids. And basically at one point or another, my father was going to put something up there, whether it was a trailer or not. Unfortunately, he got sick and he passed away. And I was finally able to get a trailer and be able to have our family actually enjoy the property more and actually stay on the property instead of having to go in town to a hotel. Excuse me. We also use that property, for hunting and everything else. I mean, like I said, we've been actually, doing that for almost 33 years.
Okay. Few questions, I guess, for you. Do you know where your lot lines are?
Yes, yeah. I don't know the exact coordinates, but they are marked on the property where they are, and I know, if I remember right. I mean, this was probably maybe 10 years ago that I was over on the neighbors. But their house, I believe, is at least a mile from the trailer, so you can't even see it that way. And I know behind us is a state trail, and that's probably at least a mile from there. And the trailer from the highway is over a mile. And if you actually go in with our easement rod that we have to go inside there, that now we actually own, there's trees and everything else, hills. It's completely covered. The only way anybody can actually even see that trailer is if someone actually does like an aerial footage of it.
Okay. Have you talked to any of the neighbors that are there or the town board, what their concerns may be?
No, because I didn't think it was going to be a big issue just to have um a camper trailer up there basically just for the family to stay in, just so we could go up there and enjoy the property like we have for so many years.
Okay. Are there any other trailers similar to that in the immediate area?
There is a older one. Um, that was my grandfather's, which he purchased about 33 years ago when he first bought the property. Um, and that one I am in process of actually taking down. I've actually been out of work, unfortunately, because I am a semi mechanic trailer and I work also on semi trailers. And unfortunately, I actually fell off the top of a semi trailer and I'm just getting back on my feet as of last week. So my plan is to go up there and take care of that one. But other than that, that's the only one I have is the one I purchased.
Okay. Uh, any other committee members have any questions?
Question about, do you use your bathroom or toilet inside the trailer?
We don't use any of the septic or anything with the trailer. So we actually have a old school outhouse um that we maintain and had for years, and that's what we use. I don't even use or fill up any of the water. So basically, what it's there for is to have heat, during the cooler months, and then especially during hunting, and somewhere to basically stay. Everything else I bring up and dispose of. Bring up garbage bags, throw them in the back of my truck, and I take them home and dispose of it.
You would say there's no sanitary facility there like that? Is that what your question was?
No, there's no septic hooked up to it, so there's no running water or waste or anything else. We have an outhouse that we actually use for that.
But those are not probably allowable anymore. You may have to get a porta potty.
One of the conditions is that should this be approved is you have to have an approved sanitary system and for the property. Outhouses, old outhouses and things like that are not permissible. So you may have to look at a porta potty.
That outhouse that we do have is a porta potty. We do everything just like the old school way, like everybody else did, from the 20s up. We take care of it, properly that way. That was just kind of one of those things, and it's the trailer is always going to be mobile and movable to move around. Unfortunately, what basically ended up happening was there was a spot that I was actually going to keep it, and I don't have enough room actually in my property in the city currently, and there wasn't a storage facility in the area that actually had openings at the time. So basically, it's not just going to be stationary 100%. Like if I want to go and pick it up and go travel somewhere, I mean that's also the choice too. So it's not like it's just going to be some stationary home or one of those build ups or half houses and stuff like that that you have up there. It's going to be fully functional for the road and everything else.
Okay, we understand that, but if you're gonna be using it, even if it's for a weekend, you probably, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to have a porta potty that is checked or pumped out on a regular basis.
Yeah, and we do, unless if you need to be pumped out. Like I said, I mean we do everything the old school way, that way too, like everybody has since the 20s. I mean, you clean it out, take
Explain
care of
old
that
school.
stuff.
Explain old school to us, would you please?
Basically, it's the porta potty there itself. You dispose of it and the waste properly. Excuse me. So what you do is, if you're up there for the weekend, people use it. You throw a lime in there, decompose it, completely sealed, and then you actually take it out. And we have containers that are completely sealed that we use for traveling, just to be able to take care of all that stuff and properly so it doesn't, damage the land. Because that's the one thing that we never wanted to do. And, right now we even have the front half of the fields and um, there's, a farmer of ours that actually farms that property for himself for product for his own home, well-being and making his own self money and sending products out. So that's the last thing I would want to do is any type of thing or way to contaminate the soil.
Okay, well, that probably is gonna have to be addressed if your permit is, approved tonight. You'll have to put an approved porta potty out there. The way it sounds, the one is an old one, and it doesn't sound like that's quite up to code.
What would be considered then for you guys a approved porta potty?
It would be a unit that's serviced by a company that, I mean, that would be one example of porta potty is, something you see Don's John's or, one of those types of companies. People rent those, they place them on their property, they're maintained by a company serviced regularly.
Okay. Yeah, that is fine. The only question then I would have in that regards is there has to be a certain spot. Because how far back the trailer is, there is a nice clear road that goes back there. But if someone has like a big septic vehicle back there, they're probably not gonna fit. Like I would have to basically clear out tons of trees just for them to get more in there. I mean, there's enough room, to get a normal size pickup truck, the trailer back there and everything else. But if someone tries using like a bigger vehicle, uh, just because of the way the layout is, it's going to be super hard for them to get back there to service it.
That probably could be worked out between whoever you chose. There's probably, I'm not gonna say how many, we're not in business to do that, but there are people out there and you could talk to them to see if that would be feasible. But that would probably be one condition that we would strongly enforce if you had this portable toilet or potty, whatever you want to call it, that was maintained on a regular basis.
Okay. And then what are you looking for as in for that as well? Like documentation, anything emailed, sent in, what are your guys's, full guidelines for all that stuff?
The company that would do that, I'm sure would invoice you, and you could email a copy of that to the zoning office if they have it on file.
Okay. And then how frequent would you need that? Every quarter, every week, every month, every year?
I guess we'd have to check on that, just hang on, one of our staff is here.
Okay.
We do a yearly inspection on the travel trailers, and we look and make sure that the unit was there every year. There's other alternatives too. You can construct a vault party if you didn't want to rent something. You could have it's actually an outhouse that has a self-contained unit underneath it. So there's different alternatives that you can talk to the zoning office about after the hearing. So we've got different alternatives. So we do an inspection every year at the site to make sure that those sanitary facilities are there.
Correct your question?
Yes, yeah, it was a little hard to hear, but I got majority of it.
Okay. Staff comments.
Everyone has a copy of staff report. The applicant, Jacqueline Simonis, is requesting conditional use for story 2019 Pioneer 28-foot travel trailer in an AG general agricultural zone in the town of Deerfield. County maintains very little information on the subject property. I've provided in your packets, there should be an aerial. Just want to kind of show you where this property sits. It's a vacant parcel. It sits a 40-acre tract south of County Road O. We went out to the property. There are some pictures that are attached there. It is probably about a half a mile road or half a mile, I say unimproved road. But almost got stuck in your sand out there. But So the pictures, you can see views to the north, west, south, east, would basically be completely hidden from view back there. Applicants have been parking the trailer in basically a clearing. It's evidence of the picture you can see from the aerial. It's, like they say, about a half a mile south of County Road O in that little clearing of County Road area. Staff has reviewed this request and finds, the proposed location for storage of a travel trailer ideal, as it is completely hidden from view and should in no way detrimentally impact surrounding properties. While the committee will be making a recommendation on this request later in the evening, staff is recommending approval of the conditional use request to store a 2019 Pioneer 28-foot travel trailer in an AG general agricultural zone, subject to the conditions listed in the report.
Okay, have we got any, registered to speak for or against?
We do. We have Denise Helderman would like to speak in opposition.
Good evening, everyone. My husband's here with me as well. Denise Helderman, we own the property in the northeast quarter and the southeast quarter. So we're directly across from that. Back in 2004, Waushara sold the northwest quarter and had that land surveyed. When we did the survey, we found out the fence line that all of us had been using as our property boundary since 1987, when we bought our property, was actually on the wrong side of the quarter line. So Waushara, after he did that, recognized that that had been always considered the boundary line and quit the property over to us. Since then, we've been trying to deal with the Simoneses to get the portion that is in the southeast section between the southeast and southwest done the same way. And to date, they have refused to deal with us. If they don't know where the property line is, we're saying they should be allowed to put a trailer on there until they're sure that their lines are. Questions? Thank you.
And that's something that we could address as part of a condition, is that they verification of property lines be there.
Do you have anything further to say, Joe, I believe it is? At this time?
What's it?
I said, do you have anything in rebuttal to say at this time?
Yes. One, didn't know with the property lines, because that's something that I didn't deal with. But I do know when the Waisakis were selling the property, that was completely on them, and with my parents when they purchased the rest of that area. They went through the full legal status that I know of, and with Waisaki, whatever was there, and it was also gone through, from what they told me, the zoning committee, and rezoned and actually remarked all the way through the whole entire area. So if there was something that should have been taken care of, I would assume that it would have been before. And that's the first time that I even heard anything about it. My parents never even mentioned anything about it either. And I would assume, especially now, with me helping my mom, take care of that property with my dad being gone, that there would have been, something mentioned along those lines.
So is it my understanding that you're willing to work with the adjoining landowners to get this straightened out then?
Well, yes, I would like to find out what exactly is the case. Kind of, where that is actually supposed to be. But from my understanding, like I said before, that everything was already pre-zoned and pre-marked and passed through. So if there was any issue of opposition of where it should be marked or cut off or anything else, it should have been dealt with, when that was taken care of, like almost 10 years ago.
We'll address that at the condition of the request then, Joe. Is that all you have then for rebuttal?
Yes, yeah, at this time.
Okay. Nothing else? That's it? Okay. Then we can go on to our agenda. Okay, moving on to the agenda, roll call show that we're all present. Motion to approve the agenda as presented.